So I'm going to get into the game. It might fail. It might lag. I don't know. I'm going to see what happens. So I'm in Northumbria. I'm going to jump in the game. I'm up here in Northumbria. This mod of Viking Conquest is based on the balance mod, but I've changed a lot of things. And I just encountered a band of... See, I had to turn my graphics down. I have to stream in 720. I shouldn't have to. Last week I was streaming everything full speed, and I can see already that the trees are lagging. This should be super smooth. I just recorded a game video and it was super smooth, but as soon as I go online and I'm streaming, it's not good. So Twitch is telling me that everything's looking groovy, but it's not. My frame rates are terrible, and they shouldn't be at all. So let's jump into a battle. Let's go, and my graphics should look a lot better, but I had to tone them down, and I'm just not going to continue using Twitch if this is what I'm going to be streaming. So I'll see how this fight goes. Now I'm used to fighting battles of 700 men on the field. I can play this with 1,000 guys fighting each other, but not on Twitch. So I'm going to see what happens. I got 35 bandits here, and we are up in old Northumbria. And which I changed the name to a more appropriate name, and I called it the Danelaw.
I'm gonna break your legs. Nice and slow.
Nice and slow. Lucky for you, you caught me in a good mood. Give us all your coin and I might just let you live. Northumbrians talk more like Scots. You got nothing of mine but cold steel, scum. So we'll start in holding position. I've got about 300 men versus their 35. Oh yeah. Well, for me, on my screen, this is running super fast. But I'll see how the stream turned out. I watched my stream for this morning. It looked super groovy for me. It looked super great for me, but when I watched the stream later, it was not good. It was lagging. It was an embarrassment. I had to turn the anti-aliasing off, so now that looks like crap. So if I can't stream on Twitch in the quality and settings and speed that I was a week ago, when I first started putting streams on, this is not even worth using. I stream live on YouTube all the time. I don't have a problem. I'm live on other services, Facebook, etc., and I don't ever have any issues. Let's go kill some bad guys. And I put Uhtred's wolf head on his shield. And this is my Uhtred. It looks more like the real Uhtred from the books. Blonde hair, tall, strong, Northumbrian. Saxon. So it looks like those thieves are going to get away. My graphics should look a lot better than this. I had to tone them down a little bit just to get this thing to run fast. And I would really, really, really like to show off some of my Viking Conquest games because I've modded my Viking Conquest games a lot. I've never released the stuff that I did, but maybe I will someday. I've corrected historical relationships. So we defeated the ruffians, and while I'm here I'm going to show you my characters from the books. So we have Uhtred. and his lifelong companion, Finan the Agile. And then we have one of his earlier companions, earlier in the book series. And Cornwall just released the last book in the Uhtred series, so that bums me out. I've been reading Uhtred for over 10 years. Steapa Snortor, the gigantic, brutal Saxon from Wessex. Leofric, who was one of Uhtred's mentors in his early days in Wessex. And Mirwalla was a captain of Aethelflaeds in Mercia. And Clappa, I believe, was a Northumbrian or Cumberland that Uhtred encountered and joined his adventures midway through the series. But you see Cleapa in TV series as well. And Osferth was King Alfred's illegitimate son that was supposed to be a priest, but Uhtred took him under his wing and turned him into a warrior. And Berg Skallagrimson, which entered the books maybe 3 books ago. Sihtric Kjartansson was the bastard son of Kjartan the Cruel, who Uhtred killed. Him and his son, they was arch enemies early in the series. And Rapier was I believe a Dane that joined his party. And of course, Father Peerlig is awesome, one of my favorite characters from the books. Was a Welshman who used to be a warrior, and he is in a lot of Uhtred's adventures. And of course, Canute Longsword, who is one of Uhtred's nemesis, and he will not be with our party very long. What I'm trying to do is make enemies out of Uhtred's enemies, and then Canute Longsword and Jarl Haston will join the forces of an enemy kingdom, probably the Danelaw, and then Uhtred will have these 2 characters as his enemies, as they are in the books. And then Brida, of course, who Uhtred knew since he was a child, and Hild, the nun who went on adventures with Uhtred, and Skade, who was, of course, I believe Skade was killed probably after Lords of the North, Sword Song maybe. And then, of course, Father Beocca, who raised Uhtred in Bebbanburg. And so I've even changed the faces. Skade should have black hair. I haven't changed that yet. And so I've tried to make the characters resemble, and I've also modified their personalities as well, so they are either bad, good, or somewhere in between. And certain characters will not like certain characters, and so I've modified that as well. And so that's my party, and I've mostly got Angles. I've got some Frisian bowmen. I don't like a lot of cavalry in this because cavalry was not used the way that is presented in this mod. In the original mod, Viking Conquest, cavalry was rarely used. There's no record of it. There's no evidence at all. Anglo-Saxons were using cavalry in that capacity until after 1100 AD. In any event, I got my standard bearers that I've modified. I put a lot of Frisians into my game. I've modified a lot of Frisians. I've modified the troop trees so that you get more interesting characters. Some characters, in some cases, a little easier. For example, these Angle priests. There was a lot of them back then. But in any event, you see I got some Frisians, some Saxons, some Angles. And so that's what Uhtred's doing. And so in this game that this campaign that I'm working on, this Lords of the North campaign, what I'm doing with this is just as Uhtred had done in the books. I'm trying to somewhat mirror the books. So we're up here in Northumbria, and of course here's Bebbanburg, Uhtred's ancestral home, and it's on my bucket list. I'd love to go there. In any event, so we are in Jolly Old, all the way down to Wessex. This is probably my most played game, Viking Conquest, in the last 10 years. And of course, if you're a veteran Viking Conquest player, then this is all old hat to you, except for the many changes that you'll see that I've made to my game. Of course, multiple sclerosis moment. Sudreyar, which is the Norse, mostly Norse and mostly Dane kingdoms, here based around the Irish Sea. Dublin's really hurting. And this was such a great kingdom 1,200 years ago. Dublin was Dublin was founded, built, conquered this area by Norse and Danes around 830 AD. But I love it over here in Ireland. So many awesome adventures to have over here. So many really cool places to go. And so my Malone branch of the family is from Connacht here. So awesome. And so we have Old Alba up here, and we'll be going up to Old Alba. And we are at war with the Scots right now, so I'm hoping to go get into a great big battle with some Scottish warriors. Isle of Skye, I'd love to go there. You'll see that I changed some names. In the original game, this was called Bjarnaroy. Bjarnaroy is actually an island up by Iceland. It was a very small settlement, mid-9th century. The actual name of the settlement that was here up in the Hebrides was Stjornavager. The stuff's not hard to look up, guys. And of course we have Orkney. I'm not sure if I changed it in this game, but for example, some of the other changes I've made to this, here in Orkney, for example, I might change the settlement and call it Skarbray because it was there. And so, for example, in the original Viking Conquest, they have like Jarl Orkin. There was no such person. They made that stuff up in their head. The first Jarl of the Orkneys was Jarl Sigurd the Mighty. I don't know how anybody could miss that. I mean, he's one of the most famous Scandinavian characters from history. Sigurd the Mighty raided and fought the Scots, the Picts, people living up in Alba, all of those ancient Scoti and Pictish tribes living up there. And so he had a blood feud. Jarl Sigurd the Mighty, he's one of my heroes from history. He had a blood feud with Malbrik Tusk, who was a Scottish warlord. And so during the battle, which Sigurd the Mighty beheaded Malbrik Tusk and attached his head by the hair to his saddle horn. But they called him Malbrik Tusk because apparently he really did have protruding teeth. But one of the teeth ended up gouging or scarring, opening up the flesh of Sigurd the Mighty. It became infected, and he actually died from that infection from a tooth from his nemesis. And so this is one of the more interesting characters from ancient Scandinavian history. Please look into Sigurd the Mighty. One of my Indiana Jones quests on my bucket list is to find his burial site. His burial site is recorded as a place called Ecclesbachy, which a lot of scholars and archaeologists believe might be the area of Scotland that's called Dornoch. And nobody may ever find his grave, but boy, what a find that would be. I mean, one of the biggest conquerors of the Hebrides, the first Jarl of the Orkneys under the reign of King Harold Fairhair. And my ancestors fought under the banner of King Harold Fairhair. But in any event, that's some of the really cool changes that I've made. A lot of really cool changes. For example, here's one of my faves. If I did indeed do it in this game, it doesn't look like I did. But for example, in my game, I will make multiple sclerosis moment, forgive me. So in my games, for example, King Eric of Hordaland, he was a real person, and he was one of King Harold Fairhair's greatest opponents. What it came down to when King Harold Fairhair was conquering Norway, uniting Norway, I like to say, one of his biggest opponents was King Eric of Hordaland. And King Eric had a daughter named Gyda Ericdottir. I couldn't remember her name. I knew her last name, it's obvious. But for example, in my games, not in this particular campaign, but I have another Viking Conquest mod I work on. But in this game, I will automatically make Gita Eric's daughter married to King Harold Fairhair because that's real history. In the game, she shouldn't be married to some other lord. That's just it's fantasy, and play it like you want. I like my stuff. I'm a living historian. I like real history. I like to live through real history, and so in my games, I will make Gita Eric's daughter already married to King Harold Fairhair, who, by the way, before 900 AD, King Harold Fairhair had thrown every Viking's head off the coast of Norway. He was not a Viking. He hunted Vikings. That's history, and that is from a first-hand eyewitness account by his court skald. All these people going around calling all these guys Vikings. He wasn't a Viking. He hated Vikings. He hunted Vikings all the way to Ireland. Okay? The reason that he wanted to unite Norway is to run the Vikings out of Norway because they were domestic terrorists. They were killing their own people. That's what Vikings were. Vikings translates to domestic terrorists. It does not translate to the crap that you read in books, and professors who write them should know better. And they do know better, but they're using that word to bolster book sales. It's good for tourism, but it's the furthest thing from historical truth. These great lords were not Vikings at all. They hunted Vikings. In any event, I could go on for days about historical truth and accuracy. In any event, guys, that's some of the changes that I've made. I'm up here in Northumbria. I hope the stream isn't like lagging out crazy and it actually comes off. I've had to tweak a lot of things down, which I shouldn't have to. Like I said, for some reason my past several streams have been 1 star. My all videos have disappeared. My previous broadcasts have all disappeared. They should be there for 60 days and they're not. They're just gone one day. So that's my unfortunate negative experience with Twitch in the last week. I haven't been able to stream anything. Cornwall, beautiful Cornwall, and Wessex. Grow some good crops down there. Winchester, Lundana. I've changed a lot of names of a lot of these settlements. For example, Tungate here in East Anglia. Okay, that is where my ancestors invaded with Jarl Guthrum, and they conquered this land. And my Norse ancestors, who came down from Tunsberg, and up here in Voss, there is a village where my ancestors came from, and it's called Tungataigen. And so anyway, my ancestors came from Tunsberg by way of Tungataigen and into Denmark, and they joined up with Jarl Guthrum, and Guthrum conquered East Anglia. Okay? And my ancestors settled in this area between Norfolk and North Walsham, up in this area, and the village of Tungate is still there. Okay, so 870 AD, actually at this time, 870 AD, my ancestors were invading East Anglia, and we held it and we kept it, and I still have ancestors living there today. We have roads named after us and everything. And this spelling of my last name is actually an Anglo-Saxon variation of the spelling of my name. My last name, my surname's actually spelled the way I spell it in Old Norse. But in any event, guys, thanks for tuning into this genealogical presentation. I'm really testing out my stream to see how well it's going to do with Viking Conquest, and so I'll look at the stream when I'm done streaming, see how badly it lagged out, because I'd really like to share some Viking Conquest with you guys. But I'm going to bail on out of here because I need to check this stream, see how it's looking, and if you tuned in, you're one of my friends, you stopped by to say hi. Thank you for stopping in and saying hi. My daughter returned back to the nation's capital a few hours ago, and we had a great weekend for my birthday. My daughter ordered pizza, and we watched some funny movies. We watched American Pickle, and so my daughter ordered a pizza, and we had a really great time. So good. I miss my daughter so much. And my friend Mary and David just stopped by, and it was super nice to see them too for my birthday. I think that might be it for tonight. I might get back on and stream something else that might stream better, but if you tune in and watch, say hi. Please have a safe and awesome week ahead, all of you everywhere. Sleep well, y'all.